Welcome back to another episode of Color Break, your third favorite comic book podcast. I'm your host, Cody Collects. As always, I'm here with my mustachioed friend. We've got Christian. What's up, dude?
How's it going, man? Comic book stash. It's incredibly funny how rusty we got after like a month of not filming.
I know. To them, we only missed one episode, right? Which doesn't
Yeah,
seem too bad. That's not too bad.
I will say I had never had so much anxiety about the podcast.
Yeah, well, it's out now, and I hope people go back to it. You know what? If you haven't seen it yet, our Color Breakies award show, stop watching this episode. Go back and watch the previous one. It should be on your feeds or
It's issue number
whatever. But
12.
issue number 12, yeah, it was a ton of fun. We had Rod on, or That Nerdy Papa Bear, and we gave out some comic book awards. And Christian slaved away for a month, locked away in a dungeon, editing dungeon. We didn't let him out till it was done. And now he gets to see his girlfriend and hang out with his family because it's done.
No, my family missed me, man. Not to say that my girlfriend didn't miss me, but my family, they're right here.
Dude, it's been a crazy month, you know.
It's funny because and to explain it to whoever doesn't know how it worked. We went extremely hard with the edit for no reason. There was no reason to do it. But we decided it would be the best thing. We got green screens. That should win a color break. Just the edit.
That's true. Maybe next year. We'll see.
But my computer just doesn't happen to have the computing capacity to export that in a decent amount of time. So it took like 180 hours to export a 1 hour video. And anxiety took over. And I was just sitting down in my room thinking about it every night. My brother.
Yeah, I'm sure, like, dude, if the power gets cut at any point, someone trips over the cord or whatever.
Yes, it was every single day. I'd be thinking, like, God, what if something happens? What if just an error, like it couldn't generate one frame of the video? But we did it.
Yeah, dude, we did it. We got it out, and going forward, we got a bunch of cool plans. I hope people stay tuned.
Yeah, well, it'll be our second topic. Will be some exciting news.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
See, that's how you get them in. You tell them there's a second topic, so they have to stick around.
Right. So in this episode of Color Break, our plan, we were going to talk about Swamp Thing by Ram V. Before we get into that, Christian, I'm going to talk just a tiny bit about what I've been reading and enjoying. Because for those that don't know, I had COVID last week, so that sucked. But that means But that means that I was able to read a ton of comics. So, dude, I binged Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus Volume Number 1. I'm gonna save my all my thoughts, right? But just initially, it's as good as everybody said it was gonna be. I already knew it was gonna be good, right? It's like one of the most legendary Marvel runs of all time, and I read it in not one sitting, but I read it in a 4-day period where it was reading 10 issues at a time or whatever, 10 issues each sitting. Man, I know you finished it. I don't know how far you want to go because we're going to talk about it later.
I can talk about it a little bit. So for the past 6 months, I for some reason decided, hey, why not set up a timer whenever I read a book? And I did the math, and it would take me 7.5 minutes to read a single issue. And that's, of course, paying real attention to it, not because I could read it in 2 if I'm just flipping. So once I got to Ultimate Spider-Man, I was like, okay, it's 40 issues. And I did the math, and maybe it's been like a month since I read it, so I'm sorry if the math is wrong now. It was right when I did it. I was like, if I read this, it should take me 4 hours to read this entirely. So for 4 hours of my life, I just sat down and read the entire Omni. And we will be talking about Ultimate Spider-Man in another episode.
For sure. It's going to get its own thing.
We won't tell you which episode it is because we don't know.
No, it's still in the works. We're planning. We want to have a special guest on, but we'll keep it under wraps until the guest is confirmed. You guys know how it is,
I can't say it's not Brian Michael Bendis, so don't get excited.
It's also not Mark Bagley.
No.
It's also not Mark Bagley.
It's not Stan Lee either.
No, it can't be. Unfortunately, it can't even be
That'd
a
be cool.
hologram.
That'd be cool.
That would be cool. Uh oh, dude. Also, I just gotta say, so I've also been reading Animal Man by Grant Morrison. What a trippy, like, just the craziest. I'm only like 5 issues in, but it is so wacky, dude. I love it. I'm like
If
in love with it.
if someone asked me to describe Animal Man, I would say it's in my if I had the money category.
I feel it, dude. You're gonna love it too. Like I know
It,
you're gonna get it at some point. You're gonna love it. So I don't know why I didn't know too much about Animal Man. He shows up sometimes in like the Flash ongoing right now. He pops in every now and then, but I never read Animal Man. I guess his power, for those that don't know. So I thought he was kind of like Beast Boy, like where he turns into an animal. But nah, dude, he just so he. It's so funny to see him do it for the first time in the comic. He absorbs an animal's power, but he has to be within the vicinity of that animal. Um, so it's just creates a lot of just insane situations because he's just like in a crazy situation. He's like reaching out, trying to feel what animals are nearby, and he's like a rat. Like I guess like it's the only animal nearby. So it's like yeah, it's so funny because he can't just have the strength of a gorilla whenever he wants. Like he's got to be near a gorilla.
so we will be talking. Well, Cody will be talking about Animal Man in a future installment, probably. Like I said, I don't have it, and for some reason, my brain just tells me that I need to own it as an Omni. I cannot read it online. I cannot have trades. It has to be the Omni because my brain works like that sometimes. So I will not be joining him unless he waits for me like 3 months.
Yeah, I mean that's probably doable. I don't think I might finish. So my plan was to do deluxe volume number one, but it's so good. I might dip into volume number two. But dude, well, we can wait for you, bro. Come on, no problem. But so I do want to say, right? Um, I just I don't know. I just want to say that it's I, there's like one part that I want to say I want to talk about, but I guess I can't.
Save
I
it.
won't. I won't.
Save it.
I won't. I'll save it. All right. That's enough of that. That's enough of what I've been reading. I don't know, Christian, if you wanted to talk a little bit about what you've been reading, but then we'll just
Uh,
jump right into Swamp Thing.
I read Fantastic Four Life Story. There you go.
Oh,
If
nice.
you like that, it's great. I kind of
Nice.
wish they
That's.
did more life stories.
I'm sure they will. It kind of seems like they're doing. I don't know how old Spider-Man Life Story is. Maybe like 2018 or something. So I don't know. It has been. I know Fantastic Four was last year, I believe, maybe the year
Yeah,
before.
it's one of those things where I question which characters they would do because it seems like life story for anyone who doesn't know, it's like through the decades, so the characters actually age. The trend I've noticed is that Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, the story starts in the '60s, so I'm guessing
Yeah.
they would only do characters who have been around long enough to experience all those decades.
Yeah, like you could do. Yeah, I mean they could mess around. Like they don't have to do like Captain America, right,
Yeah,
from all
I
the way
don't think
back in
they
the
can do
40s.
Captain
But
America because his thing is being frozen, so it would skip like a couple decades.
that's what I'm saying. But they could do like X. I see what you mean though. Like there are some, but they can't. They don't have like the full gamut of the entire Marvel characters that they could do it with. But I do think it's a great idea.
They could do X
Um,
Men. I agree.
X-Men, yeah, I think that might be the logical next one, or I guess like Hulk. But I don't know.
Yeah.
We already got like a Hulk grand design. Anyways, no, dude, that's great. I've been meaning to do. I think I'm gonna do like both of the life stories like as a dual review type of thing at some point. Um, but yeah, dude, I just been trying to read as much as possible, man. I'm like the read and groove, which is great because at the end of last year, I did that big push of single issues, but now it's like now I'm just gonna crack down and just read some collected editions. So, but yeah, did you want to just let's just talk about Swamp
Yeah.
Thing?
Let's do it. I'm 1,000% in.
All right. So for those that aren't aware, right, Christian and I, we started a thing called we called it First Run. I'm pretty sure. The idea was to utilize Hoopla as a way to read free comics. So free with your library card. Every download the Hoopla app. I don't need to repeat it, more than that. But one of the things we, before we read Batman Noel. Then we read what's it called?
Swamp. We're so rusty, man.
No. It was Batman Noel, and then we did. What was that one between?
Noel.
Batman Noel was the only one we did.
I think so.
I could have sworn. Oh, we did Bitterroot. That was part of it.
Bitterroot. That was great. I love Bitterroot.
Yeah, dude, I love Bitter. Okay, so we did Bitterroot, Batman Noel, and now we're doing Swamp Thing by Ron V. So this is Swamp Thing, volume number 1, Becoming. Ron V is your writer, which, I don't know. Have you been liking Ron V? Like the more you've been reading of Ron V?
Yes, I do want to say, and it's maybe unfair, that his Detective Comics run was not my favorite. It's not been my favorite so far. It's still great. It's just it depends on what you're reading. For example, Swamp Thing, incredible.
Yep.
It's just the fact that there's so many Batman runs. I feel it kind of makes you choose your favorite.
Yeah.
And so I haven't been in the mood to like really sit down and like take in information recently. Because sometimes like comics are an escape, and I'll say an example that's very fitting. I know Saga of the Swamp Thing is an incredible run, right? But it's a book I've always struggled with because I need to sit down and actually experience all the emotions and probably get depressed from reading it.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about the Detective Comics run of Ron V. It's heavy, and you need to really think about it. So, but
yeah, for sure.
I like the writing. The writing's great.
Yeah, Ron V does do that, right? Like he really excels at writing like, dark worlds, kind of mystical, that sort of thing. Like he had a run on Justice League Dark, I'm pretty sure. That was, pretty well regarded. So he's like at home in that kind of corner of the DC universe. So it is interesting that they pulled him onto Batman, and he's kind of trying to pull some of that into Batman's, usually it's just street level type of stuff, but always a fun when he has to deal with, magic and that sort of thing. But yeah, so Ron V, he really made his name. He worked on the Swamp Thing Future State comic books. Future State was a line that DC was trying to push. Right. It was kind of like it wasn't a relaunch, but it was kind of like they were trying to show the DC universe 10 years in the future or whatever it was. So Ron V comes in. He brings this creative team of Mike Perkins as the artist, and then Mike Spicer and June Chung as the colorist. Mike Spicer, dude, this guy can color, bro. This guy, one thing I will say, this guy is not colorblind. That's for damn sure, dude.
Hey, you never know. He could be.
He could be. He could just be like a really awesome comic book colorist.
You're colorblind, right?
I am. That's why I can't imagine doing like half of the vibrant stuff that's in here.
Both of my siblings are colorblind, so
I'm like some weird colorblind where like I'm not fully, like I don't see in gray like a dog or whatever,
no,
right? But like
my siblings still confuse like red with green, pink with light blue.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's certain conditions. Like I always say, if you held a crayon up, a Crayola marker, a Crayola crayon, and like one was blue, one was purple, and they were like next to each other, I'd be like, whoa, which? Oh,
it's funny because like both of my siblings are colorblind, but they'll fight me on it.
Nice,
because it's 2 against 1, and I'm like, yeah, but like 2 that like don't really work fully.
Yeah, 2. It's like half and a half versus just me that can see. So it's like
exactly.
But yeah, dude, the coloring in it, like it blew my mind, and it's so funny because I remember reading the Swamp Thing Future State, which is very interesting. So it was the last 2 issues of this volume was actually the Future State story. So the one that was way in the future.
Good, because it confused me.
Yeah, right. Isn't it? I thought it was kind of weird. I know it's the same creative team. So I guess like the thinking is that they killed it on their, 2-issue miniseries for Swamp Thing Future State. Everyone always says like that was the best thing to come out of Future State just because the creative team was just so banging. Gave them their own miniseries. I think it's supposed to be only 6 issues, if I'm not mistaken, this Swamp Thing run. And then they extended it to 12. So I think that's how it worked. But yeah, I thought it was super weird that they included that.
It comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, because it's like,
I mean, it was good, but like
right.
it just felt like It reminded me of the mini like issues at the end of the Batman Zdarsky run.
Right.
Where
Yeah,
it's
like
just
the
like
short. Yep.
it reminded me of that. I was like, okay, cool. I was actually like, because we've been planning this review for what, a month or two. So
A little bit. Yeah.
logically, I read it today.
I mean,
So
classic. I read it like 2 days ago. So.
I had like 20 minutes left before this, and I was like, should I read this? Because I know it's not main story, but I was like, you know what? I'll read it. It's really good. And I will say, you were talking about color, and it's not often that this happens, but you actually sent me a picture, which I'll put up here. But you never send me pictures when you're like struck by like the art.
I
And I
should. I
remember
should more often. Yeah.
you were like, "This is incredible. Look at this page," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm reading it too."
Right. Right.
I agree. So if,
Dude.
if you
Yeah.
want a review of how good the art is, Cody sent me a picture, and that's all you need to know.
Yeah. No, I think so. Like, so I don't know if I guess like what were your general thoughts of this? Because I hear it sounds like you're saying like, oh, it was good, it was good. What are your like
The
general
right,
thoughts on it before we dive like into the different all the different parts?
um, so like I said, I never was I will do it at some point, but I've never been able to read Saga of Swamp Thing, the Alan Moore run, because it's so heavy. This one was fun. It's not as heavy. It does deal with a lot of like darkness, and it's really like psychologically like it's about the psychology of this character that's basically doomed to be this monster. So it was interesting, but it felt dark, but it wasn't slow, and it
Gotcha.
didn't like make me reflect on my own darkness. It just made me reflect on the character.
Yeah,
Um,
I thought. So I guess also I should ask like while you're explaining your like so you talked about like your history with Swamp Thing. Like I haven't read too much Swamp Thing either. It sounds like you haven't either.
no, this is
Gotcha.
my
Yeah.
if I were to be honest, this is the first thing I like fully read.
Yeah, I think yeah, this creative team and those future state books were the first thing Swamp Thing related that he appears in like as a side character in like a lot of different things, but like a true Swamp Thing run, haven't read too much of him. He's always been a character that's interested me.
Yeah,
Um,
same. I know there's a show that's very well regarded. Never watched it. And it's just a character that I've known has existed and I know people love, but I've never gotten into it just because I didn't really know what the character like was. I was just like, it's just a monster. But like, of course, like every monster in comic books, it's a person inside the monster.
right, yeah, so I think the interesting thing about Swamp Thing, and that most people probably wouldn't even like know about because it doesn't get talked about really in other DC properties except for like Poison Ivy, like which we saw in this volume. So, some of it, Poison Ivy, interacts with the green, and that's how she gets her powers or whatever. So like that whole like the idea of the green and like there's the I don't
Yes.
know if you picked up Swamp Thing Green Hell, which is a current DC Black Label series. Um,
No.
Dude, you should jump on that too because it's like that, and then the future state. I was like, dude, I think I love Swamp Thing, and then reading this volume, it's cool to see that is confirmed, and that yeah, I probably will keep loving Swamp
Yeah,
Thing as I read more of them.
it's
But
one of those things. The only Swamp Thing I knew before this was Shrek. Um, and then we get into this. I did know about the green though. There's this TikToker who I really enjoyed his videos. His name is Perfect Dodge. He went through all because it's not just the green. There's like the red, the black.
yep,
There's a bunch of forces that I didn't even know existed, and he went through and explained all of them. And the green was an interesting one to me because I didn't know Poison Ivy and Swamp Thing were a part of this like otherworldly force, its own dimension, if you want to call it. So it was interesting. Like when I forgot about his TikTok because it's been like over a year, and then I was reading it and they were like the green, and I was like, hey, I know
right,
this.
yeah.
I'm
Let
smart.
me like reawaken and pull that knowledge from some TikTok video I saw. But no, I think that's like always been like an interesting part of Swamp Thing's like whole world is like this idea of the green and the red, all these different forces like battling to have control, and then they manifest themselves in these avatars, and it's like it's like not one person that's the Swamp Thing. It's like whoever needs to be the Swamp Thing at that point in time or
It's an
whatever is
interesting
destined to
dynamic.
be.
It's an
Yeah,
interesting dynamic, and they go through it in this book specifically. The fact that the green hates humans, but it needs a human avatar to survive. You know,
right.
it needs. I mean, in this, it's been different humans in different cases, but I don't remember the name because I'm not good with names. But it's interesting that like there's this duality of like we hate humans and we wish they didn't exist, but we also need them to keep the green alive.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And that was like a cool like theme that they kept touching on. So I will say, like, so as far as my overall thoughts, I mean, I think it was like you were saying. I think it was good, and maybe we'll give a rating at the very end of our discussion of it. But it was definitely good. I think that and I hear it gets better later on. I think the reason why it seems like it's got a weird story structure, right? Where it's like, in theory, they have this 12 issue miniseries, right?
Yeah,
I mean, usually you tell like a larger story in those 12. And it kind of seems like, we're getting hints of, the brother, he might be like the big villain over the whole course of the miniseries. But it was like these 3 issue like stories. Like the first one is, actually it might be two. It's like
yeah,
two,
it's
two
two
issues,
issues.
2 issues, right?
Yeah, the first 2 issues are him battling
Like
a monster
the
in the desert, which I thought was extremely cool. First of all,
It was like the
coolest,
Pale Wanderer or
yeah,
something like that.
coolest fucking concept. I'm sorry, that was my favorite one. I could see that being a movie or a show. Loved it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yep, yep. And
that
I
that
like
was
that.
the second part
Well,
was great. Number
yep,
one killed me.
for sure. It's so weird, like reading in this volume. So it's like okay, you have this two issue story, this 2 issue story, and then a 2 issue story, and it's kind of like, all right, but
The
what's the
overarching,
like
yeah.
going on? So I'm
So
sure they'll flesh it out,
I think if,
later.
if
But it
you're
was kind
gonna
of
read
weird.
it, the way I would describe it is the first two have an actual villain. The second two are more like a self discovery and knowing what it is to be the Swamp Thing.
Yep,
So that was really cool. I did like it a lot. I think the writing's fantastic. The art is, I would say, what carries the story for me. Like
gotcha. Yeah, the
sometimes
art.
I'd ignore like the speech bubbles and just look like.
So yeah, so that's something that you can see Rom V try to, or like you can see him. Sometimes it depends on what character he's working with, but he can get a little wordy at times. And when you're talking about Swamp Thing, it's like he uses like huge words, and he's like being so poetic about the way he's
And the
describing what's
science.
happening.
I mean,
Right.
and that's not a bad thing because thankfully it was wordy but interesting.
Right.
But I can see how it could be wordy and annoying.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think it could get wordy at times, but I think, like you're saying, dude. All right, let's just get into it, dude. The art, bro. So like we talked about the coloring, right? Um, but obviously sorry, let me. I gotta have a visual. That it's like the colors are so vibrant. It's so crazy, and I'm sorry. Who did I say the artist was? Not the colorist. It was Mike Spicer. Mike Perkins. So double Mike. You got double Mike working on this thing, right? So Mike Perkins as the actual artist, dude. Every page is so detailed, like the way that the humans look, um, the character design, like you said, the villain I thought is super awesome for that first arc. Uh,
For a second, I thought you said Jack Spicer, and I was like, from Shaolin Showdown? If you remember that show.
no, I never watched Shaolin Showdown, dude. I must be
That
missing out.
that was a good cartoon from when I was a kid. If someone remembers it, 10 out of 10. So I was like, Jack Spicer? Also, he's like, Jack Spicer's like an actual poet, but that was just me riffing about me misunderstanding something. However, Mike Spicer, brilliant. I will say there's something so beautiful about when I think of the character Swamp Thing, I think of this darkness, like it's a horror book. And it is a horror book, like this one's horror, but it's very like colorful, which you
Right,
would
right, right,
never
right.
expect from a horror book.
Yeah, it's an interesting like divergence of exactly like what you say would be typical for a horror story. It's just like so detailed, but you're right. It's more psychological, and then it gets into the there are some pages where it's showing like him transforming like from human like to Swamp Thing. Like some of
Yes.
those splash pages are just absolutely insane. Like I found myself just looking at it for like 5 minutes, like oh my gosh, just looking at the splash page. So like the scene in particular, like where he first meets the bad guy, and he's
Yes.
just like coming out of like the cactus or whatever, and he's like, "What the heck is happening to me,
I
dude?"
think to me,
He's
and
like,
there's not a lot. Here's my thing, and not to cut the review short, but there's not a lot I can say because it's such a short volume.
"It is. It really is a short volume.
A
It's just
lot of
like
a lot of the
reintroduce. Like
volume,
this is the new Swamp Thing avatar, and it's just three short stories. That's kind of what the volume
a lot
felt
of the
like.
volume was the future state part. If you really think about it, it being a
Yeah.
short volume, it's 142 pages, and the future state part was like 50 of those pages.
Yep.
So there's not a
It's
lot I
not
can.
long. It's just but for what it is, right? Where it takes someone who maybe doesn't know too much about Swamp Thing lore, reintroduces them to like the idea of the green. What is the Swamp Thing? What's an avatar? So
Yeah.
I thought in that respect it did a lot of good stuff. And then on the flip side, if you were a veteran and you knew all about Swamp Thing, there's a ton to love here in the characterization of like the new dude. You got throwbacks to the other avatars that I'm sure swamp heads are
Yes.
just like going nuts for. You know what I mean? To see Alec
Swamp
Holland or
heads.
whatever. Yeah, these swamp heads are going. "Ah."
Oh
Alec
my
Holland, I
god,
love
it's
that
the
guy.
guy from the 60s.
So that's the other thing too, right? Is that I don't know if so like there's that dude that Swamp Thing's
Yes.
friend, you
Jennifer.
know, Jennifer. There's
What
that
was
there's
it?
that dude
Woodrow?
like Wood,
Something. Yeah, Wood. Something like
which
that.
I mean he must be like a legacy character. I don't know too much about
Yeah.
him. I think he might
Yeah.
be a villain in
To me, it
in
was like,
like
oh, a
Alan Moore's
decaying
Swamp Thing.
man. A decaying man. And then, like, I'm sure, like, someone was like, it sort of
Dude, but
reminded me when I watched Guardians of the Galaxy, I'd be like, the
right.
collector. The collector, cool. And then some people were like,
Yeah, dude, exactly. It's exactly like that. Well, I thought it was funny because the dude's name is Woodrow, and am I mistaken? Is he made out of wood? Is that a little
yes.
on the nose?
You
I'm
know,
not saying he needs to be like made out of like
it's
I don't know
just,
pipes or something,
it's just
but
swamp things. You know, swamp things.
it's just
It's,
swamp things, just swamp things.
yeah, I mean, to end the review, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. It's
7 out
good.
of 10. I would give it a 7. That feels like a great score. Again, not a bad story by any means. If you think a 7 is bad, you need to get your head checked. Go to the doctors. A
I
7 is
have,
really good.
I love some movies that are like 5.
Dude, listen, I've read so many bad comic runs. 7 is great. 7 is
I
you're
was, I,
sitting pretty.
I watched Jumper with my girlfriend the other day, the movie.
Yep, classic.
Which, by the way, Jumper could have been a trilogy, but I don't know what happened there. I think it just
Could
came
have
in
been.
the year that Iron Man and Dark Knight came out, so it was just completely forgotten. That's besides
Yeah.
the point. I watched it and I was like, "This was great," and then I went to my letterbox and gave it a 3 out of 5 stars.
Exactly. Because like you can't like honestly in your heart, you could be the biggest jumper head of all time, right? But even the jumper heads aren't giving that movie a 5. You know what I mean? But it is a good movie. So exactly
That's
like that. Swamp Thing is the jumper.
Swamper is the Jumper of comic books.
But oh man, I do gotta say, like as I'm flipping through this, God, the art is just incredible. I'm gonna finish it. It's not gonna be. We're not gonna do the volume 2 for a first run. I'm just gonna bang it, get out of the way, because
Just so you guys know, we said this would be like a 45-minute episode, but we're so rusty that we're just like chatting and it's been 30 minutes already.
no, they appreciate it. I'm sure.
Listen,
But yeah, listen, Swamp Thing. It's available on Hoopla. We gave it a 7. That's a color break seal of approval.
yeah.
Read it. Get your library
Now I
card.
have to design a seal of approval to put on the screen.
I mean,
You see what you do to me?
I don't know. Do you? Like, it's up to you. I mean,
You can't mention graphic things and then expect me not to make it.
right?
Um, let's
Yeah, dude.
spin the wheel one more time.
Let's go for it. And while Christian's is spinning, I gotta ask everybody: does it even make sense to have a wheel? Is the wheel gimmicky? Should Christian and I just alternate and pick a story and make the other person read it? I think that might work better ultimately. But
I think let's do this. This is the last wheel spin. Then we'll do two where we pick and see what the people think.
Okay.
No one's gonna comment on it, but in our hearts, we'll know what was better.
Yeah, no one's gonna care, but let's go for it.
They're gonna be like, okay, I didn't even know they spun a wheel the first time. So let's review one more time. The options are Firepower, Wind, Strange Academy, Better Ray Bill, which is the one I'm hoping it lands on, A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance, Blue and Green, Sweet Tooth, and A Study in Emerald. Let's spin the wheel.
Spinning. Sorry, I'm supposed to kill time while we spin.
Better Ray Bill. Beta?
Wow.
It landed
Beta
on.
Ray Bill.
And I can
Daniel
show
Warren Johnson.
I can show it. Yeah, you see, I'm not lying because I did say I wanted that one. I wanted to make sure people didn't think I was lying.
You know what's absolutely insane, Christian? You might not even believe it. I'm pretty sure one of the mics has something to do with it. I'm pretty sure Mike Perkins is the artist for that. I'd want to double check before I just make that
before
claim.
We move on.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up. Beta Ray Bill. I'm pretty sure, dude. That's so weird.
If it is him, that'd be cool. Because we're familiar with their work.
Yeah, Mike Spicer. That's so weird.
I'm so happy. Look at that. It's a full circle.
All right, yeah, guys. So listen, we're gonna be reading Beta Ray Bill. It's 5-issue miniseries from Marvel Comics. I'm sure it's available on Marvel Unlimited, but it's on Hoopla.
Hoopla for free.
We're reading it on Hoopla. Get your library card. Read you some Daniel Warren Johnson goodness. He's the writer, artist, letterer. Only thing he doesn't do is color, and that's Mike Spicer. Let's do it.
So yeah, let's jump into our future plans, Cody, because we do have some exciting news.
Yep, we do.
Okay, guys, so just so you know, Cody got a new Death Star light for his background.
Yep, as you can see, it's on this side.
Yeah.
You can see that light. It's been going the whole time. Nah, guys, listen. We're going to C2E2 in Chicago, April, whatever, March, whatever to April, whatever.
If you're there and you want to say hi, you know what we look like.
Yeah, so I guess, Christian, what are we doing at C2E2? What the heck are we going to be doing at C2E2?
I don't know, man.
We don't know.
The amount of
we don't know too well.
I do know, and to put it out there, we will be filming an episode of Color Break.
For sure, we're gonna meet in person.
We have never met him. Maybe I'll hate him.
Maybe I'll be 2 feet taller than this little short guy. Maybe
I am a short king standing at 5'8". Well, Cody's like what, 6'2"?
Yeah, I'm gonna tower over this guy. No. So we're going to C2E2. So initially, all right, we're going with a group that Christian and I are part of called Nerd Initiative. They're going to be doing some cool stuff at C2E2, so we'll be going as well. I don't know. It's kind of up in the air right now, but we know that we're going, and we know that we're going to be filming a Color Break podcast, and we want to do some like content on the show floor. Christian and I got some radical ideas.
I think you were going to say wacky. I was like, ooh.
They're not that wacky.
No, they're not wacky at all. There's nothing wacky.
I guess it depends who we interview.
Well, you're giving away too much information, man.
I said the word interview. But yeah, so we got some plans in C2E2. But listen, if you got any ideas, like, hey, why are at C2E2? You guys got to, do a review on this hot dog stand or whatever in Chicago. Christian and I will do crossover comics, like food reviews. Who knows?
That's sort of the thing that like stresses me out about going in a big group, which is like, first of all, great because I get to see a lot of people who I interact a lot with online, but at the same time, I have things I want to do. I mean, seeing the bean is exciting,
We're gonna have like 3-4 days or whatever to like figure stuff out. So we'll be able to see the sites, I'm sure.
I want to go to a comic book store. And I know it's kind of funny. We're going to a comic book convention, but I want to go to a comic book store.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we're definitely going to be doing some comic book store content, some show floor content. It should be a lot of fun getting to meet Christian in person for the first time. But Christian, is that all for our plans? I think that's all for our
Oh,
plans for
I can
now.
say something very curious. So, as I have come to find out, there's like 3 or 5 top like major conventions, right? As far as I know, there's a Comic Con, of course. There's C2E2, and of course you can go into like the Star Wars celebrations and all that, but that's besides the point. There's MegaCon in Florida, and those are the only ones I can think of. This year, for some reason, being two of the top comic book conventions in the world, C2E2 and MegaCon in Florida decided to be on the same exact weekend. Now, I live in Florida, so that's disappointing, but I will be going to Chicago because I get to meet this guy. And also, a lot of people are going. I've never been to Chicago. It's a good experience. Yeah, I get to try.
Yeah, I've never been to Chicago. I've only been in Chicago just flying through O'Hare. So I think I had a layover
I
that
get
was
to
like
try pizza.
7 hours. So
But the cool thing is that the guests at MegaCon, and not to say that the guests are at C2E2 are bad, because the guests at C2E2 are pretty cool. Like, I want to meet Tom Welling. Come on. Donny Cates is going to MegaCon. He is my favorite author, so that's kind of disappointing. But not as disappointing as knowing that Steve Burns of Blue's Clues fame is going to MegaCon.
yeah, but you could probably find that guy on the street somewhere. You know what I mean? He's
No,
probably just
he's great.
wandering, meeting
He's great,
people.
man.
No,
He
he's
lives in New
great. He's
York.
great, but
He has music,
yeah,
great music.
Yep.
But that was the most disappointing. I was like, no, Donny Cates is gonna be in Florida when I'm not. Steve Burns. A friend of mine was like, Sam Raimi, and I was like, did you see under Sam Raimi? But yeah,
Glad to know Christian's got his priorities.
Me and Cody will be meeting for the first time, and it'll be this big event. I do know he's taller than me, so it'll be interesting. Expect some cool things is all we have to say.
Yeah, it should be cool. Also, as far as future stuff, we got some guests in the work. But Christian, listen, dude, I don't know if you heard. They released a lot of DC stuff. Do you want to talk about it, dude?
Yeah, I saw Congress had a meeting last week. That was kind of interesting, right?
They meet all the time, dude.
Something about some Republican senators or something. DC, they're there.
All right, Christian. You remember when we had? I think it was episode number 2, right? Where I got in a big. Things got heated.
That's the name of the episode. Like, things get heated.
Yeah. I remember. I was like, I'm so mad at DC right now, dude. I wasn't that mad, but it seemed mad, and it was the most passionate people probably have seen me ever. So, but yeah, a lot of the things that I was like, you guys either gotta pick one, pick the other. You're trying to eat it both ways. It's really weird, right? They seem to have solved all the problems. So maybe I can just go over what they announced just at the very top, right? And then we could maybe talk about, pick and choose some of the projects that interest us the most.
Well, first, before we talk about announcements, they did talk about the things that are coming out already, that were already announced. So they did talk about Shazam Fury of the Gods, which I have not watched Shazam #1, and I don't know if I want to watch it anymore.
I will say, as far as DCEU projects go, Shazam is definitely like top 3. So it's definitely, saying like
just lately my opinion on it has changed. Not to get into,
I got you.
But Shazam Fury of the Gods is going to lead directly into the Flash, and the Flash will reset the DC timeline for the movies.
Right.
And then after that comes Aquaman 2, whatever that one's called. Didn't like the first one. That one will be also expanding the DC universe. So I'm guessing these kind of did like a soft announcement of Ezra Miller and Jason Momoa still being in the universe.
Dude, I don't. I really wish like we could just move away from Ezra. I
I
really
mean,
just wish because
love them in the perks of being a wallflower.
yeah, which it sucks by the way because I wanted to watch Perks of Being a like I was like
Oh, you should watch
we're
it.
flipping through. I'm like, oh, it's no, I've seen it before, but we're
Okay.
trying to figure out what movie to watch. Like, this movie's awesome. Too bad. And it's like too bad. You know what I mean?
I
But
think for that one, I can separate the art from the artist.
yeah, I guess I'm just waiting to see all the crimes that were committed and see what he gets charged, see what they get charged with or whatever. Because it's just a crazy situation. But
I
I
mean,
don't know. It's
because
I'm glad it's
when they tell me that the Flash is resetting the timeline, it's not like in my head. It's not like the Flash is resetting the timeline and then ceasing to exist
I'm kind of hoping that's what happens. I'm kind of hoping like Barry gets lost in the Speed Force or whatever, and just
forever. Not like
see
a
it, and then
comic
we
book,
get
not a comic book Lost. We're talking about, and it's. I mean, I will be totally honest. The Flash is my favorite DC character, my favorite comic book character of all time. People know this. Ezra Miller, they were not my favorite Flash. I did not like the suit. I did not like what they did with the character.
yeah, agreed. I think a lot of people are with you there. Um, and we didn't mention it, but also Blue Beetle movies coming out. People are pretty pumped for that.
That
Love
one
the
is going to
guy.
be a
The
part
guy.
of. Yeah,
Yep,
Sholo Mariduena.
dude. So in Cobra Kai, he is definitely one of the most standout, especially for the kids. I mean, the kids can all act in that show, but he is definitely top. I'm glad he's landing the big role. It's going to be Jaime Reyes, dude. It's awesome.
Also, I will say, just as an interesting point out there, there is a currently a mini for Blue Beetle out there,
Yeah,
and for any Spanish speakers, there is a Spanish version of that run, and they do sell it in comic book stores. So if you've wanted to read the character and maybe you struggle a little bit with reading, I know a lot of people can speak the language, but reading's harder. Um, Go ahead, like it's in Spanish. It's a
that's
great thing.
awesome. Yeah, no, it definitely seems like I don't know. Definitely seems like that one was kind of trying to tie into the movie, but maybe something got delayed, and you know how it goes. And they, we're sitting on it for a while or something. But I'm hearing it's pretty fun. It's definitely targeted at younger readers, but always nice to have a Blue Beetle run on
Yeah.
stories. I think Blue Beetle's an awesome character. So.
And now, before Cody, I'm gonna let you announce all the projects. I'll just say my thoughts, but I will say, just as a preamble, James Gunn did it. Can we say the word gun in here? No kidding.
It's the
TikTok
two
would be
ends.
like, whoa. Yeah, James Weapon.
Well, even weapons.
No, he announced that they're basically unifying. They're pulling a Star Wars, where all the shows, video games, animated shows, animated movies, and the movies are going to be in the same timeline and universe. So if it's the voice actor in the animated movie, they'll be the actor in the live action movie, which I think is kind of
No,
cool. Of
dude.
course, they cannot do that with comics. Star Wars does do that with the comics. The comics are in continuity, at least the Marvel Star Wars comics. But
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. It's a smart move.
No, it's a smart move for sure, and it's something interesting is Marvel's not even doing that, which you think because they Marvel the games are totally separate from the movies, you know what I mean, and definitely the shows can be. I mean, it's kind of they're kind of
You know
fixing it
what?
after the
It's
fact, but they're pulling in parts of the uh, Netflix shows that they like, that
are
sort of
you
thing. But yeah,
are
from
you
the get
sure,
go,
man?
this is what's up.
Are you sure that the games are not part of the continuity?
No, they're definitely not.
I
They're
don't
definitely
know,
not.
man. I don't know.
I
No, I'm
mean,
playing.
listen, they can always like say that they are because they're on like Earth, 617 instead of
Technically,
616, and all the
everything is
universes are in canon. So it's like,
technically
yeah.
it is all a part of the universe.
But
Um,
I'm saying, in your video game, it isn't going to be Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man.
no,
You know what
I
I mean?
think
For sure,
I think
interacting with.
Marvel Snap is MCU canon.
I mean, maybe I don't think so. um, but it's one of those things that it is cool to see that even video games. I mean, that's kind of weird to see that. I mean,
Yes.
TV, movies, animated, that all makes sense. But yeah, even video games, all right, cool. So yeah, we'll jump into the announcements. I'll just rip through them and then we can kind of pick and choose. Um, Animated, we got Creature Commandos. Focusing on some of the more oddball characters in the DC universe, like I don't know, see Frankenstein in there. That guy's a wacko. Uh, we got Waller, which kind of sounds like it's going to be a season 2 to Peacemaker, possibly. Superman Legacy, which sounds pretty interesting. Heavily inspired by the Morrison All Star Superman. And then we got Lanterns. We got Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan, buddy cop, like true crime sort of thing.
Did not. I was a body cop is too
Right.
happy. This seems like it's gonna be a dark show.
It's probably gonna be a dark show, like some like space serial killers or something like that. But they're buddy cops, and then we also have the Authority, which is a team
So what?
movie.
Wildstorm.
Yeah, like I don't know too much about the Authority. I know there was like Superman the Authority. I know sometimes I forgot who, like Morrison, I think worked with the Authority a lot or something like that. I'm not sure, but correct me in the comments. Paradise Lost, which is focused on Themyscira, Wonder Woman, Brave and the Bold, Batman and his son Damian Wayne. Then we have Booster Gold, which Booster Gold is super cool to see in the first like slate. I mean, you think he's in part 2, but then Booster Gold.
I would think Booster Gold would be the Guardians of the Galaxy of this slate.
Possibly. It's just like yeah.
Like hey, we've been seeing these.
Right.
Supergirl.
Women of Tomorrow, so kind of focused based on the Tom King run, which I have as a trade, and I'm super excited to rip into because everybody loves it. And then Man of the Hour. I mean, we're talking about Swamp Thing earlier. We got a Swamp Thing project coming. So let me ask you this, right? Out of these, what like one or two, I guess, like really speak to you? We don't see a Flash movie. But we do see, every different corner. Longbox Entertainment has a great video where he breaks this down. I heard him talk about it on live.
No free shout outs.
Nah, we love that guy. we love Longbox. No. But he talked about, how you got the Superman family dealing with space stuff, whatever. Batman, street level. You got some Lanterns in there. You got some Swamp Thing, like, dark occult type.
Oh yeah, the
of course you have Wonder Woman.
It's called what? Gods and Monsters.
Gods and Monsters, yeah, phase 1 or whatever. So,
yeah, I don't know. It's more than 2. I'm gonna say 3.
Go for it.
Lanterns.
Yep.
Supergirl.
Mm-hmm.
And Swamp Thing, but I will give all of them sound interesting. I mean, Creature Commandos sounds incredible. I think that's gonna be great. So I will say all of them interest me, but I do have my thoughts. I do want to ask you which ones are you interested in. You could pick 3.
Yeah, for sure. I think so. For me, I mean, I'm a bat head. You know what I mean? love me some Batman and the Batman family. So it's interesting, right? Because it sounds like they're gonna. I mean, James Gunn said it's gonna be a movie focused on Batman and his son Damian, which at that point. Choice. Yeah, it's odd, right? Because Damian is depending on how you count, is like the 4th or the 5th Robin or whatever.
You're skipping like 20 years of movie history that they could do.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you got to assume that if they're starting there, then, Dick Grayson's already established. He's probably already doing Nightwing stuff, right?
Because I would imagine they would, my thought process was they were going to do Jason Todd. Like Jason Todd gets killed, comes back. It just makes sense in the long run to do that. So I do find it interesting that they're gonna have a little kid there, and then how old are they gonna make him? Like 12?
Yeah, I mean he starts out he's pretty young. I mean he's born under the League of Shadows or League of Assassins, right? Trained under Ra's al Ghul. Talia is the mom, and he's just like this little shithead who wants to like be better than he's like, Batman, you suck, dude. I can literally do your job. I'm 12 years old and I can do your job way better than you. And he's got to get under control. I'm excited to crack. It's gonna be a long time before this movie comes out. I'm excited to crack into the Morrison Batman Omni that I have, and because Damian's always been a character that I'm interested in. I think he is my favorite Robin. I think it's
My
kind of tough to
favorite
say. I
one
really
is
like
I
Tim
like
Drake,
Dick
but
Grayson.
Dick Grayson, yeah, just as Nightwing. I like him more as Nightwing than I did as, I guess, from what I've read of him as
Well, I
Robin.
think it was cool
Um,
because he stepped into big shoes.
it's for sure, 100%. So that's the one that speaks to me. I guess I just have to say that because I'm a bad, like I said. Um, and then, dude, so it's so interesting, right? I've been hearing a lot of theories on people talking about Superman Legacy and that, because they could have just said Superman, right? But Superman Legacy, like, does it sound? And if they're using All Star Superman as like a
Yeah,
template,
as the
so
picture, but
it's like,
I think it would be like I will say it would be the wrong move.
yeah, for sure. Like, unless they set up like John Kent, you know what I mean? Because we haven't seen
Which
John Kent in a movie
even
before.
then, I would like to see Clark, and I'll explain why I wouldn't want John Kent. I think John Kent's a great character. First of all, just putting it out there. If you have a problem with John Kent, get out of here. Um, I wouldn't want John Kent right now because I want to get to that point. You know.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think I do want to see John as a character, John Kent, but if they're gonna kill off Superman in the first
Okay.
movie, like, I don't know.
The thing that Marvel did better than this DC, and that the thing that scares me about this thing is that Marvel didn't start with their biggest runs in the beginning.
Yeah,
They set out for the future. You know, like when the MCU begins, Spider Man's like 12. He's not even a character. You know, so they had a
right.
lot of leading room to build, but they're starting in like Damian Wayne already, and there's
Yeah,
already two Green
right.
Lanterns,
And
and
it's like, is that how they're trying to differ it, right? Where it's, you are in this world. This world has been established. There isn't like, a building up of like a threat that requires them to, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, maybe, Superman's been Superman for 15 years or something, right? And we're just introduced to him.
yeah, but
I guess they
how
could
much
always do.
longevity do you get from it?
Yeah, yeah, and it's super interesting. I think that alone, just like the legacy after it, that makes me just it just really piques my curiosity.
I
Um,
I'd be
and
angry
then
if that's the only Superman we get, like Clark.
right, right. I don't know. It's just weird to call it legacy unless he's dying.
I think once we get the cast, we'll have an idea. If we get it to like an older, more like
Yeah, for sure. That's it. If the cast is,
because when
and
we
then
get
dude,
Brandon Routh, you know, like Brandon Routh Superman, which like, and I don't know why I went with Brandon Routh. I think that movie is actually not the worst. Um, Brandon Routh is not the worst Superman, is what I want to say. The movie was not great. We get Brandon Routh. He was pretty young.
yeah,
It's like we had an idea of like, oh, they're trying to start a Superman universe. He has room to grow.
right.
Same with Henry Cavill,
Hmm.
whatever you want to call him. I don't know his name. He had room to grow. So if we're starting with Superman Legacy, it just tells me that he's gonna die. And you don't want to give away the ending in your title.
I know, right? Before, like, 5 years for the movie is even out, like, I don't know. It's interesting, but and then I think for my third one, Supergirl One Woman of Tomorrow does interest me, but I think for the third one, it's got to be Lanterns, dude.
Yeah,
I mean,
Booster
just
Gold too.
premise alone, like, just using your imagination, right? Like, don't let it run too wild, but just think about it. John Stewart, Hal Jordan, just like flying through space, like catching like
Well,
he's a serial killer, but he exterminates
well,
planets.
they did
Maybe that's
say it. They take care of Precinct Earth, so they did say it's
gotcha.
primarily
So it's gonna
about
be
Earth, which is
gotcha.
even wilder because if it's
Yep,
something on Earth, they have like immense powers. So it makes me
they do.
question how bad can the problem be for the Lanterns to have to intervene?
Yeah, it's true. Definitely. Like that the lanterns from stories that I've read in DC Comics, it'll be like we had to take the lanterns off the board, dude. Like what's a way we can get the lanterns like they're busy doing something because we don't want them to touch this story because that's gonna be the plot hole. Everybody's gonna say, why doesn't John Stewart show up? And it's like, listen, guys, we got to tell a story. We can't just have the lanterns showing up in every story solving the problem, all right? So
It's.
yeah, it's interesting,
I hope they
but
make it like they said like True Detective. I hope it's really dark
yeah, and
because like the thing
like
they could
I see
do
what you
is
did there because light, good one.
I wasn't thinking of it, but yeah, no, I, yeah, 100%. Yeah. Hope no like yellow pencils cross their way. Oh no. I will say, because if it's a dark story, they can have, Hal Jordan's like a goofball sometimes,
Hmm.
and I feel like Jon Stewart was always like a more serious character. That it's Jon Stewart's the Green Lantern I grew up with because of the animated show. I
Yeah, me
didn't watch
too.
the animated show, but I would see the commercials and be like, oh, that's Green Lantern.
That's it. Yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
you know how like a lot of people are like, what? Like, why did they have to change the race or whatever? Which like stupid. It's a totally different character and it's a really cool character. For me, it was like, hey, why do they make Green Lantern white now?
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, yeah. Like
I was
that.
like,
That
what?
is
I was like,
right.
bro, I was like, what the fuck is this? And then they were
I'm
like,
trying
no,
to think,
it's
dude. I think no, you're 100% right. I think John Stewart's like my guy. Like I think John Stewart
yeah,
is my
that's
Green
my Green
Lantern just
Lantern. I
because.
when I found out about Hal Jordan, like, I was like, what the hell? Where are we going back? Why are we getting this white guy to just come in? And someone had to
Right.
be like, no, that's like the OG man. He's the one.
Yeah. um.
So it'll be interesting, and I'm super excited for Lanterns. Then we have Booster Gold.
That'll just
That's
be fun.
exciting.
I hope that one is an origin story.
Yes,
Because you gotta get
100%.
some origin stories, dude. It sounds, to our points, we've been saying this, right? It sounds like this world is already going to be established when we're dropped right in, right? Not saying that it's bad; it can work. You know what I mean? Um, but it does sound like, hey, like we're some origin stories, right? Or
I feel like
I don't
yeah,
know.
sure. If you don't want to do an origin for Superman and Batman, I get it. That
But you
story's good.
gotta get one for Booster, right? Like no one knows,
You
no one's
gonna
gonna
tell
know
me
this guy,
how many
dude.
times have we seen the Flash origin story? Think about it,
Yeah,
honestly. Once,
like on screen. Yeah,
once,
yeah,
and it was the Grant Gust. I mean, maybe the '90s show had it, but I didn't watch it. Um,
right,
so like, how many times have you seen the Green Arrow origin story?
right,
Those
right.
are characters like sure, Spider-Man, Batman, Superman. We don't need it, but like, there's so many other characters that are like, I would like to know. Please let me know.
So I mean, I guess I'm with you, and it is true that these are the first couple announcements. They're still however many years out. Things could change, whatever. But I will say, in summary, I think this is on like the surface. It seems kind of weird, right? Like if you don't know too much about what's going on, it's like it seems like the weirdest lineup. It seems like a very James Gunn, just weird lineup. But breaking it down and kind of chewing on it for a bit, it does make sense because again, you are seeing these different corners of the DC universe, and then we're gonna be off to the races, dude. Once they
I
get things
think
going.
I
So
think it might be a misdirection.
interesting.
They're smart. They're not gonna like give you everything, right? But like if you look at the posters that they have shown or the pictures
Oh, I
behind
got
James
you.
Gunn where he was talking, All Star Superman, which is like the wildest picture to put behind a Superman story.
Yep.
The whole concept of All Star Superman, without spoiling anything, because I haven't read it, he's dying.
Yeah.
Then you get
I'm right out. He's dying. Everybody knows it, but
in the Lanterns one, you see John Stewart with a yellow ring, if I'm not mistaken. You can look it up right now, but I'm pretty sure he has a yellow ring. It doesn't look like a green ring. No, no, no. Oh, you're
that is
colorblind.
interesting. I don't know
God.
if that's just because like
They looked up
you know
Superman on Google. Superman.
I'm looking at the picture now. I mean, it is yellow, but I guess I just thought it was
But also the
like why
symbol
was it
is
yellow?
different.
Yeah, it is.
So I think it's a misdirection.
Yeah, that it could be.
You see? We're smarter. Also, I think saying that for a lot of people, saying the Flash resets the universe, people think reset from scratch, and it's like no, it just resets the story, but you can jump in midway, through.
Yeah, it's I think audiences are smart enough nowadays to understand like different universes and variants and you know what I mean? Like Marvel's already introduced that idea that, there's
Please, in some way, and this is James Gunn directly, give Grant Gustin a chance. Give that man a chance. He worked
I'm
hard
saying
for
bring
it.
in a new guy, bring in Wally. That's what I'm saying. I mean, listen, Grant's been eating good.
Here's
He's
the
got
thing.
9 years
Okay,
under his belt.
I
Maybe
want to
Grant wants to
see.
move on. I don't know.
I want to see a good Barry, man, and not this. That's the thing. Grant Gustin wasn't a bad Barry, but the writing wasn't my favorite. So
Yeah.
I want to see a good Barry. Imagine like your favorite like superhero.
Yeah,
They're like,
no,
yeah,
it's important. Yeah, it's important. I'm with you. Like, there's no speedster. That's true. There isn't a speedster in the first couple movies, I guess. But all right, I think that's gonna do it. We just hit the 1 hour mark. This is a great episode. We talked about Swamp Thing,
Oh,
some
this is our
future
best.
plans, DCU chapter, shaking off the rust, guys. Listen, we're back. This is episode 14, right? I
It's
didn't
with
say that at the
13.
beginning.
13.
Okay, because the other
Yeah.
one's 12. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, that's how it
Anyways,
works. It's it goes
episode.
up.
Yeah, it goes up. This is episode 13 of Color Break, your third favorite comic book podcast. Thank you for listening. This has been Cody. That's been Christian.
Any last words?